Good afternoon, everyone. What I'm going to do is I will stand on the protocol that's been established. But before I get started, what I would like to do is to introduce you, our customers, Bahamian people, to the team at BPL that will be responsible for executing what I'm about to lay out here this afternoon. So I'd like our board members who are here to stand so everybody can see who our board members are. Go ahead. We have 3 board members here. And more importantly, I'd like to have our senior executive team to stand as well. All of our senior executive team members, please stand, as well as our senior leadership. Who you see standing before you are all Bahamians. They are responsible for executing the strategy that I'm going to lay out here. And we need everybody to pull with us because what we're doing here is of national importance. Thank you very much. So, knowing that I stand between you and your lunch, I'm going to move through this pretty quickly. What we're doing here at BPL, which is something that all of us have heard about before, is we're looking to right the ship. We all know it hasn't been working. It hasn't been working for us individually, collectively as a country, for some of our businesses. So we have to fix it. And above all, we get it. We know our customers are frustrated with us. We know some of our customers don't like us. They don't think we're doing a good job. They don't think we know what we're doing. They don't think we're going to fix the problem. We understand that. But what we want is an opportunity to show different. What we want is an opportunity to communicate our strategy or our fixes in ways that we believe are going to help the entire country. One of the very first things that we did at BPL coming in is we entered or ushered in an era of transparency. So a couple of things that we did is we revamped our website. We established community WhatsApp groups, and we know what we've gone through with respect to the load shedding and some of the challenges that we've had. But we created more direct lines of communications directly to our customers. The other thing that we're doing is, as you know, Hurricane Irma devastated Ragged Island some years ago. And so one of the things that we wanted to do, and has been mentioned by the government, is to create a green island at Ragged Island. We've moved and we've progressed that, and I'll talk about that as well. The other thing that we're doing at BPL is we're giving opportunities to Bahamians. And so we've established a new procurement system called ProcureWare, where every Bahamian entity, you can come in and register on that portal. We're also opening it up to internationals as well, because we know we can't solve this problem by ourselves. Let's talk about Ragged Island. The procurement process for Ragged Island went through this particular system. We gave the contract or awarded the contract to Tequila Energy, but one of the subcontractors that was very key to this project is a company out of Grand Bahama, Freeport Grand Bahama, Woe Construction. They did a significant amount of the subcontractor work on this project. This project was due to be completed in December of last year, but because of Hurricane Dorian, it was delayed by about 30 days. So Ragged Island will be up and running, pushing solar power to the grid by the end of January. What we're looking at with islands like Ragged Island and all the other islands that we're doing solar with is that these are essentially laboratories for BPL. We've built a system that's a battery energy storage system that's about 0.5 megawatt at a cost of $3 million. Now, most of you who follow the news, you pretty much understand that when you build in generation facilities, it's on average $1 million a megawatt. If you look at the numbers here for Ragged Island, which is 99% solar, you're looking at 6 times that number. One of the things that we want people to recognize in the Bahamas, yes, we have all the sunshine. Yes, solar technology is improving day to day. Yes, batteries are coming down. But from a cost perspective, for our island and our economy, right now is cost prohibitive. But that doesn't mean that we should stop doing those kinds of things. That's why Ragged Island is important to us, as well as the other islands that I'm going to mention to you. So the first solar panels were put in Ragged Island in December of 2019. And again, we're looking to have Ragged Island fully green by the end of January. That means battery technology, solar panels, and then we have backup generation as well. So the people of Ragged Island will begin having their green island from a generation capacity. We also have a commitment to the rest of the family islands as well. So as you all know, and many Bahamian companies are aware, we issued RFPs for the islands of Eleuthera, Andros, as well as Inagua. Those RFPs were issued back in July of last year. And more than half of the company that submitted the bids were Bahamian companies. As part of the RFP process, we've made it as BPL, the leadership team that you see here, we made it as part of the evaluation process that Bahamians have meaningful equity ownership in these companies that produce solar energy in the Bahamas. We are committed to Bahamians. We are committed to providing opportunities to Bahamians at BPL. Let's look at Abaco. Abaco was not only a setback for us as BPL, but for the country. But as BPL, as soon as that disaster happened, we began working. And we began working to the point where we focused on doing the work, and we didn't really tell a lot of people about what we were doing in terms of our successes. So by the end of September, South Abaco was powered back on, from Wilson City down to Sandy Point. We've also gone and put in services in Crown Haven, going through all the way from Cooperstown, North Abaco, by November, early November. We supplied the hospitals and the government offices, again, by the end of November. Up to this Monday, the progress in Abaco is such that the Central Primary High School is 100% up. So is the Government Treasury Building. So is the Spring City has been electrified. The Water and Sewage Corporation well field is now 100% up and running. And we're working on all of the other parts of Abaco to bring Abaco back to being electrified by the end of March. So you can see in Treasure Key, we've started some work already, with completion of that work within about 11 weeks. We've also started work in Dundas and Murphytown in Guana Key. We're completing assessments and starting the work as well. So as BPL, we're committed to bringing Abaco back. And we're not just doing it ourselves. BPL is a member of CARELEC. And so all of our CARELEC brothers and sisters in the Caribbean, including ones in Trinidad, Haiti, Antigua and Barbuda, have all brought teams as well as other countries, those are countries here to the Bahamas to help us. When the hurricane hit, within 24 hours we have one island up. That was Moores Island, because a BPL, very dedicated BPL employee assessed the situation and brought that island back on power within 24 hours. Now where we are January 16th, we've brought back most of the island. And as I indicated to you, by the end of March, all of Abaco should be repowered back up by BPL. Now let's talk about how we got where we are. Not rehashing the past, but let's talk about the reality of what we as a country, we as a board, we as executives of BPL are facing. Back in 2003, an adjustment was made to the rate that we pay for electricity. Back in 2003, our electricity rate was around 16.5 cents a kilowatt hour. All of us complain today about how high the electricity rate is, when the rate today on average is 12.5 cents a kilowatt hour. The rate was adjusted without a rate study, without understanding the impact to the company. As a result of that, BPL has lost in revenue opportunity almost $1 billion. Money that could have been put into managing the infrastructure, replenishing the generation assets, doing those things that modern utility should do, we did not do. Instead, we ran up a debt of over $320 million. A debt that now must be paid. We're at a point in this country with BPL, if we don't satisfy that debt, we're not going to improve our infrastructure at all. That's the bullet that all of us have to bite. That's the cost now that all of us have to share in order to improve our utility. So what ended up happening with that? You didn't have money to build new generation. We didn't have money to maintain our assets. We didn't have money to make sure that our customers got trained, or our employees got trained to provide good quality customer service. So all we simply did was maintain a certain status quo and hoping that the problem would solve itself. We kept kicking the can down the road. Another thing that really affected us, and we're targeting this now, is our transmission and distribution system. It's antiquated. We talk about resiliency. When you look at storms that happen, the biggest impact is really your transmission and distribution network. And so we are going to make investments in that as well. So what did this board do when we came in? We came in August of 2018. We recognized very quickly as BPL that we had some challenges. And so we put together a strategic plan. We put together a strategic plan at the direction of the government, who indicated that we needed to fix BPL as a matter of policy, as a matter of national importance. And so we took it upon ourselves as a board and executive team to put together this plan, to focus on both the short and long-term objectives for the organization as well as the country. There are 5 key components to our strategic plan. The very first and number one is safety. One of the things that all the executives will tell you about there this morning, the reason why all of them were late is we did a safety briefing this morning. Mandatory. We're changing the culture around our focus of safety at BPL. That's extremely important, that we do things to make sure that our employees remain safe and our customers remain safe. The other thing that we need to focus on is our customers. We know it. Our customer service quality is terrible. It needs to be improved. We know that, we recognize that. We're owning this. Every one of those executives that you see that stood up, they're owning this. One of the biggest things that's extremely important to us is taking ownership of a problem and implementing the appropriate solution. Our people and employees. One of the things you have to do, especially in a technological industry, is you have to keep your employees trained. You have to develop them. We had no money to do that. No money. And so as a result of that, the kind of training, the kind of development that we should have been doing over the last 10, 15 years, we didn't do. We were committed to righting that ship. Asset management, we talked about this before. Because we didn't have generation that was adequate for us, because it wasn't properly maintained, we ran into the issues that we ran into this past summer with load shedding. There's no two ways about it. We need to do a better job at that. Our financials, being good stewards. Prior to 2003, when the rate was changed, BPL earned on average about $15 million in net profits every year. When that rate change happened, no money. No money to reinvest in infrastructure, no money to reinvest in people, no money to improve processes and systems. And so as a result of it, we just became this floating entity that couldn't sustain itself. So let's talk about our immediate challenges. Generation. Shell. Shell is an important part of what BPL is doing moving forward. When we came in as a board, one of the very first things that we did is we negotiated the MOU for Shell. But what happened prior to that, on September 9th rather, we had the fire at Clifton Pier. Lost a significant amount of assets. Immediately we called Shell. We indicated to them that, listen, we're in this for the long term with Shell. So we need your assistance in helping us to identify the correct technical resources and the correct strategy for building our generation moving forward. Shell provided technical assistance to us. And so as part of the Shell deal, we're going to have a 220 megawatt facility that will serve as base load at Clifton Pier. That particular facility will be a gas-to-powered facility, meaning ultimately LNG will run that facility. What we did in order to accommodate that is we selected engine technology that's tri-fuel, meaning it can burn diesel oil, heavy fuel oil, and LNG. Gives us maximum flexibility in addressing our energy needs moving forward. One of the other things that we put in the agreement, the MOU from day one, Bahamian ownership. Extremely important. And I'm talking from the national strategy level all the way down. So Shell knows and Shell understands. They can come in here and invest in a power plant, but Bahamians will have ownership in that. They can invest in a terminal facility, Bahamians will have ownership in those. When you look at the kinds of returns that you can get from a utility, just standard, or a terminal facility, these represent great wealth building opportunities for Bahamians. And we as BPL, we as a board, the government that provided the directives, wanted to make sure that that was a part of the deal. And it is. One of the other things that's important for us is greenhouse gas emissions. That's why we're transitioning to LNG. LNG is a clean burning fuel. LNG has stable prices. And the United States of America, our next door neighbor, has about 60 years of commercial reserves of LNG. They're discovering LNG in the Caribbean. So when you look at the availability of this fuel, when you look at the price stability of this fuel, when you look at how the world is transitioning and trending with respect to how it's generating power, LNG is a huge component of that. And strategically, Bahamas will be a part of that as well. So let's look at what we've done. So we can talk about strategy, we can talk about all the things that we want to do, but what are we actually executing? So the very first part of our plan was to start showing up generation. And we did this by building Station A, 132 megawatts, and actually bringing that plant online this past December, just like we said we would. That's the first step in this process. Station D, which would make up the other 90 megawatts to make 220, we will start construction on Station D this March as BPL. We have a very complex negotiation with Shell that takes time, so it's better for us strategically as BPL to cover those costs, and Shell will buy those power plants back from us. And we will create opportunities for Bahamians to invest through an IPO. That's the structure of the deal that we're negotiating. You look at the stations that are at Clifton Pier now, because Clifton Pier should be our base load, Station B and Station C. We are now going through a winter maintenance program where those assets, about 100 megawatts, are being refurbished. So when they come on the grid, summer of this year, you will have base load coming out of Clifton Pier of 230 megawatts, running on the least expensive liquid fuel that we have in this country, reducing the cost to our customers. Again, for us, it's funny to believe, people still reach out to me and say, Station A doesn't exist. Those engines are phantom. But here it is. These are the photographs where we unveiled the Station A, and we essentially opened it up to members of the government as well as the business sector. All of the engines at Station A are running, all 7 of them. Because you have to put in various maintenance cycles, they're coming on and off the grid at various times. Because the last thing you need is to have 7 engines for maintenance at the same time. Then all of a sudden now you got load shedding again. So we're being very responsible, very prudent about how we do this moving forward. Blue Hills. Blue Hills is the power station that gave us the headache for load shedding. We depended on certain assets that were very old, and within 3 weeks of the start of summer, 3 engines failed. Old engines, old turbines. And so what we're doing now is we're taking the winter maintenance timeline to assess what the challenges are with those engines and get those engines repaired so they can be ready for summer coming up. Rental generation. When the fire happened at Clifton, the easy decision for the board would have been to rent more generators and kick the can down the road. Rental generators for us cost our company about $2 million a month, plus fuel, diesel oil fuel, the most expensive fuel. We will rid ourselves of rental generation. Let's talk about the family islands. The family islands of the Bahamas are growing. Look at Eleuthera, $400 million investment with Disney. Look at Grand Bahama is growing, Bimini is growing, Exuma is growing, Andros is going to grow, so is Inagua. We recognize this. And so as the utility company, we have to put in the infrastructure to support this growth. That's transmission and distribution, and that's generation. Now what we're doing in the family islands is we're building the mix. This mix of traditional generation with solar, and we're doing it in ways that are purpose-built for the Bahamas. We have unique economic constraints, obviously, and so for that, we want to make sure that we put in a solution that does not impact significantly the cost to our consumers and our customers. Renewable energy. People often talk about the fact that, well, we don't allow this, we don't allow that, you can't put panel on your homes. We have a program called the Small Scale Renewable Generation Program. Every single Bahamian, individual or business, if you want to, you can put up to 100 kilowatts of solar in your home or in your business. That's available now today. Now here's the interesting thing. We've done that, and this has been going on now for about 1.5 years, 2 years. And less than 200 people have taken advantage of this. Wonder why? Cost. The average home will require about a 7 to 10 kilowatt system. That system costs $40,000 to $50,000. And 9 times out of 10, the banks don't finance it. So who's going to build those things? But the program is here and available for you. One of the other things that we'll be doing at BPL is utilizing distributed battery network technology. Now, what does that mean? One of the other things that people need to recognize and understand, and I've said, the CEO have said it many times, if you talk about putting in utility-grade solar in a utility network, there's all these issues with creating instability in the network. I kid you not. I spoke to the chairman of Jamaica Power, and he indicated to me that when they put in a utility network, one of the things they had to have was somebody who was called a spotter. You want to know what his job was? Look for clouds. Why? Because when cloud cover covered over those solar panels, your generation output went down significantly. It destabilized your network. Huge issues. What we want to be able to do is make sure that when we implement utility-grade solar in the Bahamas, when we do a huge amount of rooftop solar, that we have a grid that's stable enough in order to understand and take those impacts of the influx and outflux of electricity generation. Again, the team that I just showed you, we're building this smarter. We're building it more resilient. We're taking a very measured and structured approach as to how we revamp the electricity sector within the Bahamas, primarily our utility generation. Utility-grade solar, it's going to come, and it's going to come to New Providence. Okay, it will happen. But there are certain fundamental things that must be in place first in order for us to accommodate utility-grade solar. It will come. Now let's talk about debt financing, our challenges here. All of the things that I've talked to you about, laying out where we are from a financial standpoint. We can't do anything that I'm laying out here for you unless we have money. That's why the rate reduction bond was so important and is so important to us. And here's the thing. This was known back in 2015 when the Electricity Act was written and the Rate Reduction Bond Act came into place. People knew this. Now it falls on us at this time to execute on this. And I know a lot of people don't like the fact that your bill, so they say, is going to increase. But we understood that. We took that into account as BPL. And we developed a strategy as to how we could make this cost or this impact neutral to our consumers. And so what did we do? Went through a process, selected city to run the process itself. We had to revise the rate reduction bond legislation because the bond structure that we put together now is very unique and purpose-built for the Bahamas and what we want to do. And the previous law didn't account for that. So we had to do that structurally. We went through completing rating agencies' presentation. I can't say much about it because we're still in the quiet period. That's why everybody says, why isn't BPL saying anything about a rate reduction bond? We can't. If we do, we violate SEC rules. We violate SEC rules, we get downgraded in the rating agencies, and all of a sudden we don't get the kind of rating we need. And you know what somebody says? Why did that idiot chairman open his mouth? So we didn't say anything. We can't. The bond term they were looking to raise, we're going to close that by mid-February. We're working very hard. Some of the people in this room, in fact, all of the people that stood up as part of BPL are a part of the team that are in one way or another contributing to getting us ready for this bond. And the bond term will be likely 20 to 25 years. So what are we doing with the bond funding? Under the terms of the Rate Reduction Bond Act, bond funding, $321 million is going to go to repay the debt, that legacy debt that we've been carrying like a ball and chain for the last X number of years. We're also putting money into Station D, the new Station D. Money that we will get back. Because unlike you've been hearing in the reports, we're not giving Station D to Shell. We're selling it to them. And we'll take that money and reinvest it in other infrastructure needs in the Bahamas as well. We're also putting money into Family Island Solar. We're talking to the government about them doing that probably as part of another program. And we're also looking to implement a new solution called advanced metering infrastructure. What does this do? The short of it is, it puts the power of how you manage your electricity in the hands of our consumers. That's what AMI does for us. It allows us as BPL to be a lot more proactive with respect to providing you service. One of the things that people don't realize, and thank God for WhatsApp, sometimes when the electricity goes off in your neighborhood, we don't know unless you call us. The system is that antiquated that we don't even know when electricity goes off in certain areas. But upgrading our infrastructure using AMI, we will know instantaneously when electricity services have been interrupted. These are a lot of the systems, the investments that need to be made in the infrastructure here for the Bahamas. Now let's talk about what we did here, moving this whole debt funding forward. We recognize that this was a very difficult, challenging process. So we engaged other advisors as well. There's Ernst & Young, who's our financial advisors, and there's an engineering firm out of the US who's done this many times before called Leidos. So a lot of the calculations that we put forth, a lot of the things that we've put out there in the public that we can, these are not just things that we came up with, but there are teams of people who've been here, there, done that, who helped us produce this information. So let's talk about this. A number of things that have been put forth here. What we did was we created an estimation of what this cost would be to the consumers. Why do we have to do this? Well, first of all, to move the bond forward, you needed to table the legislation. The minute you table the legislation, questions are going to be asked. What's it going to cost? So without knowing or getting the ratings, we had to come up with estimates of what that cost is. That turned out to be 15%. Well, it turns out that the average bill in the Bahamas for consumers is $180. What's 15% of $180? $27. That's where the $27 came from. And if you heard the minister talk about cost, he said $20 to $30. So that's the estimated cost. However, our plan, BPL, the board, is to make this cost neutral. Now, how do we do that? Number one, generation. That's the strategy we executed on over a year ago because we knew this was coming. So higher efficiency engines, which the Wärtsilä engine is about 30 to 40% more efficient than the engines that we have at Blue Hills. That reduces the cost. How does that reduce the cost? Because the same amount of electricity that you produce require lower fuel. That lower fuel cost we pass on to the Bahamas. So the savings that we're going to, Bahamians rather, the savings that we're going to give to you will come as a result of a reduction of the fuel cost. Average over the last year, 2018, 2019 year. So given the plans that we have in place, and if everything falls in line with the rate reduction bond hitting your bills in March, by August of this year, by running high efficiency engines at base load out of Clifton, that cost, that 15% now, becomes cost neutral to you. So yeah, you get a little hit, but again, we recognize that. But our plan is to make sure that you don't have that hit sustained over the term of the bond. That's what we did. So when you look at it, a little more technical here, Station A right now came online in December. Those engines are about 30% more efficient than what we have now, even though we're running diesel oil. That reduced your cost. Pretty soon, in about 30 days, we're going to be running the engines out of Clifton, Station A, on heavy fuel oil. That's a further reduction in cost because heavy fuel oil on the market is what, about 30 to 35% less expensive than diesel oil. Just by switching fuel, you've had a further 30% reduction. And now once all the assets come on and we get rid of the rental generation, we get rid of the much more or less efficient engines at Blue Hills in terms of not running them, guess what, your cost goes down again. So by summer of this year, you're running base load of 230 megawatts on the least expensive fuel possible, running the highest efficiency engine that we have, cost reduction. That's the plan and that's what we're executing against. I'm not here to tell you that, oh, we hope we build Station A. Station A is built, it's running. We are executing the strategy. The people you see in this room are executing the strategy. They are taking ownership of this. The other thing that we're doing at BPL, which we've never done, and this is one of the reasons why our brothers and sisters at Grand Bahama enjoy a lower cost for electricity than we do, they hedged. In 2016, the price of a barrel of oil was $39. BPL had the opportunity to hedge. We did not. We will hedge. We will hedge fuel. What does that do for you? It doesn't give you the lowest price. It gives you price stability, price certainty. What are we doing with LNG? Even though LNG is very inexpensive, folks at Shell will tell you, they're in the room, we've been pushing them hard on this hedging in the PPA. Because what do we want for Bahamians? We want price stability, price certainty, we want high efficiency for the long term, 20, 25 years out. That's the team of Bahamians I show you, that's what we're executing in BPL. Other challenges, T&D. So we hear this all the time, you guys fix generation, T&D is bad. We know it. I feel really bad for the folks who live on the west, Lifer Key, Old Fort Bay. Your electricity goes out all the time. It's not load shedding, it's the T&D system, and we're fixing it. We know there's a problem there, and we're fixing it. So what do we need to do? We need to build new substations that support Station A and Station D. Brand new substation can cost you tens of millions of dollars. We have to make that investment. We're building a new 132 kV line coming out of Clifton. We're switching base load to Clifton. So you have to have redundancy, you have to have reliability, and you have to have resiliency. We're building that in. That's not inexpensive. We also need to upgrade all of the substations in New Providence. We've seen them, we've driven around. We got plants that grow on them, we got some of the doors that don't quite work, things that are rusted out. There's never been a significant upgrade in these substations in a long time. We're gonna make that investment for the long haul. Customer service. We know we're bad at it. Folks who work at BPL can tell you, me personally as the chairman, sometimes I walk downstairs and I pay my own bill by joining the line to see what that feels like, to understand the customer's pain. Sometimes I call the number that we have and it just rings and rings and rings. We're owning that. We have to fix it. We will fix it. So we're gonna build a state-of-the-art customer service center that's gonna be open 24/7, 365, that humans are gonna answer the phone. We're gonna leverage industry standards where we track and manage all issues that come into the organization. I mean, honestly, somebody tells me right now, if I ask anybody, you call BPL, what trouble ticket did you give number? None. We don't have the system running. We know that. We're gonna fix that. Our employees. Every employee who's customer facing, every employee who gets in front of a customer is gonna be trained. How to talk with the customer, how to interact with the customer, how to empathize with the customer in some cases, if you gotta cut them off. Now, one of the things we will do, if you don't pay your bill, we will cut you off. We're putting together policies that manage that. We need the revenues. But more importantly, we will build a culture. We will build a culture at BPL that's customer focused, customer centric. We're a business just like anybody else, albeit we are a monopoly, but that shouldn't stop us from providing quality customer service. That shouldn't stop us from providing the best product and service to our customer. And that mindset, the leaders you see here in this room, they are going to communicate, they're going to indoctrinate, they're going to put that throughout the organization so that we get held to the highest standard for customer service. Training and capacity building for employees. We haven't had structured training programs at BPL to the extent that it used to be in about 10 years. We recognize we have to change that. So part of our investment will be in our people. You have people all the time talk about, oh, guys are bringing in outside contractors, they're taking our job. I can tell you this board, every contractor that comes in here that works in generation or T&D, a part of that engagement is training. A part of that engagement is knowledge transfer. That's required. We're going to start building our people up. We need to take the technology of today and leapfrog where we were. You can't do that organically. We'll be here for the next 10 years. You need outside help. That's what the outside consultants do for us. That's what the outside expertise does for us. It allows us to leapfrog. It allows us to get better at what we do. What's our vision? Our vision for BPL is to provide reliable electricity at the lowest possible cost and providing price certainty. So all the wild swings caused by Mediterranean oil and everything that happens in the Middle East, we're looking to get rid of that noise when it comes to your cost. That's our focus. We recognize too, if as investors you come to the Bahamas and we have the ability to tell you that your electricity cost would be this particular rate for the next 5, 10, 15 years. That's a game changer for us. Folks in the tourism industry, we listen to them as well. They tell us all the time, we have great winters, make a lot of money, but when summertime comes, the wild swing in the fuel cost, all of our profits go away. We at BPL are working to change that. We want to give price certainty. When you do that, locals invest more. The manufacturing sector is going to grow. The outside investment is now going to come to the family islands because they know the biggest cost that people have and the biggest cost uncertainty of electricity, that now goes away. Now you focus on really growing your business. So again, we're not just talking here. And again, I had the team stand up because if you see them out, you can tell them they have to deliver on these. So what did we do? We launched Station A in December of 2019. We're working to complete the rate reduction bond. We introduced that to the public market in terms of people knowing about it back in October, November. We're going to start the liquid fuel hedging program. We're going to complete the Shell definitive agreements. We've been negotiating with Shell now straight through since 2018 of August. This deal that we're putting together is very complex, very complicated. It has certain things in it that they've never done before, and as a country we've never done before. So we're doing the best job we can in negotiating this deal because guess what? When the ink is dry on the paper, it's a 20-year deal. I don't want to be the one who made a mistake negotiating a 20-year deal. So we're being very prudent, and we're using all the experts that we can to make sure that we do the best job we can. Will it be perfect? No. But it will be the best job that we can do. We will begin construction of Station D in March of this year. We will complete the customer service call center, Q2 of this year. We will complete the new control room and command center, Q2 of this year. We will complete our winter maintenance program to get ready for summer 2020 in May of this year. We will complete Station D by August of 2021. One of the things that people don't realize, we built a 130 megawatt power plant, brand new, a plant that should take 12 to 15 months in less than 9 months. Our people did that, along with a contractor who's committed to making a difference in the Bahamas. We will get this done. We will also complete the LNG regasification facility by 2022. These facilities take about 24 to 30 months to build, and Shell can tell you in all our negotiations with them, we're pushing them hard. We want it done quicker than that. But of course, it's the first of this facility that will ever be done in the Bahamas, so we need to do it right. We need to make sure that we don't cut corners when it comes to environmental and safety. But that's our goal here. The other thing that we will be doing at BPL, the government laid out a plan where you have 30% renewables by 2030. We will be a part of that. We will contribute to that. Most of all for BPL, we will rebuild trust with our customers. We know most customers don't trust us. They don't believe anything we say, and deservedly so. We have to build that back, and we're committed to doing that. Thank you.